Right, let's look a little bit at Elixir radar. So for those who may not know Elixir is this amazing programming language that I really like. I'm not an expert at all. So far from it, it's hilarious. I can make things with it, but not I'm not a senior in any way. But I can tell you that Elixir is probably one of the best developed server-side languages I've ever worked with. It's a functional programming language which was originally the main contributor is Jose Valim, which is this major name in the Ruby community. And Ruby, I will go and say that Ruby has probably the best development experience there is in any programming language. I mean, they have these problems with performance and like all that stuff. And basically, what Jose Valim did was to create a new language on top of the Erlang language, the Beam engine, and like that stuff. Like Erlang, for those of you who don't know, that is a programming language originally developed by Ericsson to handle like telecommunications and that type of stuff. And that language is absolutely horrible. It's the same thing with Objective C. Like these are horrible languages that were developed by a small group of people for the purposes of solving their problems, and that's where I think the genius of Elixir comes in, because although the language and the experience of developing with it is horrible, you have this great, awesome, powerful, like specific solution to a problem. Like Erlang solves a few problems really well. High availability is being one of the major factors. So like if you have an application that needs to be running 100%, has a like something crazy like 99.99999 or even 100% uptime, then Erlang is the way to go. It was designed to do that. Like in telecommunications, you have to have 100% uptime. So like all the underlying stuff is really powerful and really stable. It's been around for 30 years or more. And then someone like that comes from the Ruby community, like Jose, and he comes in and like makes a nice develop language, that's nice accessible language on top of everything for us regular human beings. I mean, that's just genius. It is absolute genius. And some of my absolute favorite features with Elixir is that you have this like great syntax, all these very nice accessible tools through Mix, and you have the Phoenix framework, and yeah, so that's basically what Elixir Radar is. It's a newsletter specific to Elixir, and usually I don't actually find so much in this that I find like, oh, this I need to jump into. And the problem is that like I'm still like some of these concepts are like, a lot of these articles are for people who are either you're an absolute beginner, or you're more sophisticated and you already know a bunch of stuff and you need to like you're gonna do something specific like with databases and so forth. I would like there to be more articles about just examples. Somebody builds something and show like, okay, this is a tutorial. Like I love tutorials. I make my own tutorials because I think that some of the like a lot of the tutorials, especially on JavaScript, are like they're either very basic, or they're like very they're not that great. Like I like my favorite if you want to see an example of my absolute favorite producer of tutorials, it's gonna be Mr. Brian Wong. I think I spelled his name right. No, I did not. Let's build that app. And there we are. Here he is. So if you want to learn, like this guy has literally helped me go from not knowing a single thing about Swift to being fairly good. I have my own startup company where we're using Swift, and I mean, I watched most of these videos, at least the stuff that where he's actually building. This one is really great. Let's Build YouTube. This is probably my favorite one, where he literally builds a really nice looking YouTube app in iOS, and he uses Swift. And I can tell from experience that he knows what he's talking about. He doesn't use storyboard or any of that bullshit. That's like really. I Okay, I'm not gonna be mean, but if you're using storyboard and you call yourself a professional developer, I think that we should have a conversation about that. Because if you're telling me like storyboard and all these accessibility tools that help you get started really quickly, I mean, I'm gonna go out, I stick my neck out and say, if you feel more comfortable dragging and dropping and clicking buttons on an interface instead of using code and like actual doing, actually understanding how things work, then I don't think you're a very good developer. Like, I think that you have a lot to learn about how to structure things, because the problem with storyboard is that when you start going into version control and all these things, you like diffing and like reusability becomes really tricky, and a lot of the customization things that you want to do you can really only do through code. So I ask, why are you adding this extra layer, which is basically just an abstraction on top of code? If you like, it's the same. You remember Dreamweaver, and all these people call themselves web developers by dragging and dropping stuff through Dreamweaver, and then Dreamweaver would produce the code for them. That's not coding. That's you using a, like, it's like saying that you're a computer scientist because you're using Photoshop. Because you can drag and drop and crop images, you're an expert on this. No, the tool is doing this for you. You know how to use the tool. You have no understanding of what's happening underneath, and that's very dangerous. And that's why I love this guy. He acknowledges this. He knows, and that because he does promote this, I can tell that he knows what he's talking about, because these problems, he has probably faced them. I'm pretty sure he started out with storyboard himself and realized very quickly that he's not being able to be productive in the same way, and he has all these issues. And he actually I think he has a video that he talks about the reasons to not use storyboard. So yeah, Brian does some really cool stuff, and I actually try. That's what I'm trying to do for my own stuff. I'm not copying him. I'm trying to focus on JavaScript and like see if I can make something that's awesome as this, where I actually walk people through the code. Like, I actually build the thing and they can see how I built it, because I think that's a great way to learn. But enough about that. We were on Elixir. So I'm gonna look through a few of these newsletters here and see if there's something relevant this time. I don't think so, but as I said, I still really think Elixir is probably, if you're starting a from scratch project and the main focus of your what you need is to have a system that never goes down for any reason at all, then Elixir should be you should really look at Elixir. I mean, you're not, yeah, I wouldn't throw Elixir at something like a web app, like a standard run-of-the-mill web page, or like a web app, or even like a mobile app or something, because like it's a fairly new language and not that many people know it. But if it comes to like when it comes to functional programming and these practice, and if you really like that stuff, this is the language for you, definitely, and not even a question.